In the very first seconds of Nobuhiko Obayashi's 1977 film, Hausu, we hear this. This leitmotif appears approximately 20 times throughout the film, and is perhaps one of the few elements of Hausu that is used consistently and uniformly amidst the chaos that the rest of the film quickly offers us.
A lot has already been said about Hausu, the film about a girl and her 6 friends visiting a haunted house, and spoiler alert, one by one dying feels like a nightmare. The narrative, which was literally written by a child, feels nonsensical. The visuals range from amusing to absurd, and the effects are, well, it's a movie that is consistently cited as a film that defies conventional filmmaking, and instead utilizes every element of filmmaking to mercilessly embrace the chaotic and expressive.
But for a film that seems adamant in breaking every cinematic rule and reinventing its filmic vocabulary at every turn, Obayashi chooses the film's music to be the consistent and at times dominant element that runs throughout the madness. Why is that? What significance does the music carry, and what can we infer from Hausu's use of music? In order to analyze the film in this manner, it helps to understand a certain concept called. Through various essays, Eisenstein defines something called attractions, and something that he calls the dominant. He argues that every shot contains multiple attractions, specific cinematic techniques to evoke emotional or intellectual responses from the audience. But one attraction, the dominant, holds the primary attention of the audience and guides their interpretation of the scene or shot. For example, more often than not, the dominant attraction in films is the narrative. In a crime film, viewers are immediately drawn to the killer, hiding or running from the pursuant, while other attractions, such as the motion of the background or the mottled moonlight and shadows, revolve around this central focus.
In Hausu, however, the traditional hierarchy of attractions is disrupted. While the narrative falls significance, the film's other attractions are loosely applied. The film's formal choices seem to prioritize a sense of unpredictability and chaos, where cinematic norms are subverted and replaced with a barrage of surreal imagery and unconventional storytelling techniques. It's difficult to point to a single attraction that is consistently maintained enough across shots to emerge as the obvious dominant. It's reasonable then to argue that the music of Hausu is the dominant attraction for most of the film. The fundamentals of the theme remains consistent and uniform, with transformations that are discernible and can be analyzed within the framework of the overarching leitmotif.
Throughout the film, the leitmotif in Hausu undergoes various transformations. In the first half of the film, the motif serves as a backdrop to the girls' lighthearted moments and adventures, adapting to their changing moods with different musical arrangements. Seconds after Gorgeous and Fantasy leave school, giggling about summer and romance, the leitmotif transitions to beaming synths and hand claps. Then once again to slow piano as Gorgeous returns home to disappointing news. These mood-driven variations persist throughout the first half of the film, played on the violin when Gorgeous meets her new stepmother, in rustic harmonica during a flashback to Auntie's pre-war romance, and in a bluesy riff as the girls adventure through the countryside to the isolated house. As the story progresses, however, the significance of the leitmotif evolves. It becomes intertwined with the haunting presence of Auntie and the lingering grief of her wartime experiences, especially as the tune enters the film's diegesis for the first time. At the midpoint, Gorgeous enters Auntie's room and sits at a mirror with items of youth, beauty, and a photo of a dead lover. She finds a music box which, when opened, plays the now familiar leitmotif. Soon after, Gorgeous becomes consumed by ghostly flames and is possessed by her auntie's spirit. Around the same time, her friend Melody begins to play the leitmotif as well on the piano downstairs. Unfortunately, she gets a little too into her performance, and the piano comes to life and swallows Melody whole. Finally, we hear a vocal version set to pitch down woodwinds as Gorgeous wanders the garden.
All of these variations of the music's diegesis suggest a powerful sentimental connection to Auntie and the house, cemented further by the narrative. as it is revealed later on that Auntie had died many years ago while waiting for her fiancé to return from World War II. Her spirit remains, eating unmarried girls who arrive at her home. The music box shows a connection to the past and the weight of Auntie's unfulfilled desires. Melody's rendition of the motif on the piano downstairs becomes a catalyst for tragedy caused by Auntie's grief, inflicted to those around her. The song's lyrics evokes images of nostalgia and longing for a past that can never be reclaimed, resonating with both Auntie's tragic history and the broader context of wartime grief. Additionally, in many of his discussion of Hausu, Obayashi has been quick to point out the connections of the film with that of his own personal wartime experience.
それと僕自身が広島のね原子爆弾の影響をやっぱり受けている人間だということもあってだからそういう意味じゃテーマもそこからおのずからね僕の親しい同年配の子どもたちはみんな原爆で死んでますからやっぱり原爆というテーマでねこのファンタジーをこしらえてみようと。
So, to summarize, by utilizing the attraction of sound, in this case the sound of music, as a central, recurring dominant, Obayashi guides the audience's interpretation of the film, synthesizing it into a story whose meaning is centrally about the loss of childhood innocence and the enduring impact of wartime grief and trauma.